for anyone who is listening to this, who's thinking about what is my son going to do? What is my daughter going to do? Technology. And I know there's a bit of a scare around AI at the moment, but knowing how to manage AI, knowing how to speak to AI, the tools are changing slightly, but technology is going to be at the center of more and more over the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years. And for anyone looking for career and career opportunities, working in that technology and IT sector, cybersecurity, absolutely huge at this point in time, a really, really solid career choice.
Welcome to Workplus, the podcast that shines a light on the people doing good work across Northern Ireland. I'm your host, Richard Kirk, founder of Workplus. I've spent years working with employers, schools, colleges and universities, helping young people and career changers to make better informed career decisions. Each week, I sit down with real people doing real jobs to explore how they got there, what they've learned, and why their work matters. If you're a parent, teacher, carer, or just curious about what good work looks like today, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Mark, it's so delighted you can join us today in the studio for our podcast. Thanks for that.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you. We love talking to people about the career journey that they've had to help others who are maybe stepping into a career, thinking about a career change. So delighted you can be with us today. I'm going to take you way back to your school days. Always interested to know, what are the subjects that you most enjoyed at school?
Okay, that's a really difficult start because that's a long time ago. So I was in secondary school from about 1981 to 88. So quite some time ago, and started my career then at 89. In terms of what I studied, I left after I had done my A-levels. I guess I went on and did economics, English and geography at A-level.
Okay.
So a really eclectic mix. And if I'm being perfectly honest, it probably reflects the fact that I really didn't know what I wanted to do when I was at school. I wasn't one of those kids who had an absolute career goal set and knew I am studying for this is the direction of travel. So I had a very broad range of subjects, but I guess I stuck with what I actually enjoyed doing, and I enjoyed doing those subjects most, and so took them on through to A-level.
Yeah. So when you were at school, did you have any chances to do any work experience? Did you have a part-time job at that point?
I played a lot of sport when I was young, and one that I'm particularly passionate about, still am, although I don't play it anymore, was cricket. And cricket takes up an awful lot of time, which got increasingly difficult as I started to get later in my years and wanted to actually go out and just party with my friends. But it did mean then that my Saturdays and Sundays were very much taken up by that. So I didn't have a paper round or a Saturday job or a Thursday night job. But I did, for a period of time, work actually in an insurance company, a company called Friends Provident. I don't think it's still on the go anymore.
Yeah.
But I worked there through a friend, and it was a summer placement, actually. And I was there for about 7 or 8 weeks. And it kind of introduced me to that world of corporate, really. It was the first time really walking into somewhere and seeing people in, back then it was very much suits and shirts and ties and well-dressed. It's a bit more relaxed now. But that was my first foray into that, and I actually enjoyed it. I enjoyed that sense of, well, even though this is an insurance company, there are a lot of different roles here that people are doing, which is not just about knowing the financial products. There's a lot of support roles and administrative functions, and it's a lot broader. It's a team effort to make it actually work.
Yeah.
So that was really...
Was that what you enjoyed about it? Was being part of a team?
I think even just thinking about coming to chat to you today, I was thinking obviously about, well, what is it that makes me tick? What is it that makes me enjoy coming to work? And it is being part of a team and delivering something. And I suppose that was the first time I kind of saw a bit of that actually it doesn't really matter how good each individual part of this delivery cycle is. All of it together has to work. And if that comes together, it's actually really great. And people are building relationships through that because you're having shared success, building friendships that endure inside and outside of the workplace, which for me is really, really important.
Brilliant. So that was what stage? What age were you?
I was 18. I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you finish school and this was
This was interim. It was actually while I was, much to my parents' disgust, it was while I was finishing my A-levels. So I stopped just before I sat my exams and went and did this placement. And I felt that I was ready, as ready as I was going to be for the exams. I didn't love academia. I was never really set on going into university. Had I done it, it would have been because I hadn't got a job. And I did go through the UCAS application process and had an offer. And again, it'll give you an indication of where my head was at back then. I think I had an offer for Coleraine University, or Ulster, to do English with Media Studies. And I had one at Jordanstown to do sports science. So very different, but again, reflecting things that I had an interest in. However, at that age, I was also applying for jobs and was really fortunate to get offered a job as an administrative assistant or a clerical trainee. Actually, I think the post was called, in what was the Northern Ireland Electricity Service.
Oh, okay. So that was your, apart from that role you had at Friends Provident, then you were straight into NIE at that point.
It was my first job, yeah. My first real job, yeah.
And was there? It wasn't an apprenticeship or traineeship.
So it was a clerical trainee. I came in with 11 other colleagues. In fact, I think you spoke to Paula today. Paula started on that same scheme 2 years before me, or maybe one. I can't remember. She doesn't like me to say she's older than me. So back then, NIE would have taken in a number of apprentices every year, quite a few actually, maybe up to 40, 50 apprentices across, jointing, overhead lines, electricians. They also brought in management trainees who had graduated, and then they brought in clerical trainees who were people like me who had either done O-levels or A-levels, GCSEs or A-levels, and were ready for the workplace.
So what sort of clerical? That's not really a word that we use very much this. But what was the task?
My first job in NIE was looking after the NIE fleet. So NIE has a number of vehicles on the road, as you will still see today. And back then we had a team of mechanics who worked for the company. And my job was to make sure that all of the vehicles that were on the road were roadworthy. So they had to be, I ran a system which brought the vehicles in for maintenance, booked out other alternative vehicles for those staff to be able to go out and do their job, and then arrange for the vehicle to be taken to the PSV centre to be checked, a bit like a commercial MOT, which has to happen. And then whenever that was done, get them back on the road. And it was a continuous cycle of that. Now, there would have been other tasks as well in and around just things that needed done to support the engineering function. But predominantly that was my job for the first maybe about 12 to 18 months.
Okay, right. So if we look at what the A-levels that you chose, you can't maybe see how that could relate directly, but what were the skills that you were using in that early job?
I think for me, as I said to you, I didn't really have a clear direction as to where I thought my career was going to go. I had thought about places where an organisation like NIE at that time was actually pre-privatisation, just pre-privatisation. So there were 6,500 employees in NIE at that point in time. And I knew that I was someone who was hardworking. I knew that I could work hard. I knew that I had common sense. And I felt that whilst I wasn't ready to go into the third level education, I was ready to work. But if I was to join a company like NIE, it would potentially open my eyes to a wide range of things that I could follow. And it really did. Back then, NIE had shops. They had Shop Electric. The power stations were part of the group. So all of the distribution network that we now have was a part of that. Still a really big part of the organisation, but there was a really diverse range of things that you could get involved in. You could be involved in insurance. You could be involved in property. You could be involved in supporting the shops and the shop systems. And actually what happened to me was after I was in the company for about 2 years, internally, I moved into IT. And I guess part of the rationale and reason behind that was when I was working in that first role, it was an IT system that managed all of the booking of vehicles, the bringing them in, booking them out, changing them around, making sure that all of the certification was noted and stored, etc. And it kind of started to give me a bit of an interest in what was happening behind the scenes, rather than sitting in front of the chair just operating.
Yeah. So how was that system put together?
Exactly.
That then made it really easy for users to use.
To use,
right?
So again, the benefit of having a company like NIE is that whilst there's obviously a requirement to bring in new talent. I mean, new ideas and new thoughts coming in is a really important thing. But they also look internally, and they look internally at staff and staff development opportunities. So back then, every year, they would have brought in a number of graduates into the IT department. But they also gave internal employees an opportunity to do an aptitude test and put themselves forward to move into the IT team as junior programmers.
Yeah.
So I did that. I did the aptitude test and passed it, did the interview and got offered a role in the IT department. And for the first 2 months, I was sent to Ulster University up at Jordanstown, where I did an intensive programming course with 3 colleagues. And we were deposited back into the IT department 2 months later and given test programs to write, and started on the journey down IT, and have been working within IT and telecoms really ever since.
Okay, great. And what is it about that work that you loved so much? So if someone's listening to this as a parent, young person, teacher, they're trying to encourage young people to think about, well, what might my journey be after?
Yeah.
Like what's the difference that you make through your job?
Yeah, well, I mean, look for me, what sparked it for me, as I say, was being a user of an IT platform and wanting to know how it worked and how it was put together. As I then moved into programming and worked in that part of the team within NIE Networks, what you then saw, as you learnt your skill, as you learnt your craft in actually pulling a program together and making it work, there is this satisfaction in seeing raw data coming in one end and something coming out the other end that business users are looking at and thinking, wow, that's perfect. That's what I needed. That is what I need to make my decisions about the next thing to do for my business, for my, the next steps and where I'm going next in a process. And the other thing that I really liked about it was the opportunity to actually work with those people really closely to get that outcome. So you were seeing the results of what it was that there was a problem. You worked with them, you got a resolution, and actually you made their job easier.
Okay, so you're having listening.
Yeah.
Again, that's not, you don't do an A level or GCSE in listening, but actually that's so important.
If I will not undermine or understate maybe the importance of one of the things for me that, I mean, I was not a great student at school, but I've learned in the job that I've been in, I've learned ever since. And whether that be being sent off for a 2-month programming course, or whether that has subsequently been, going on a project management course and learning some of the fundamentals around how to project manage or service management, there are so many technical skills that you keep learning as you move through your career. But to me, one of the things that you bring is yourself and your attitude. And if your attitude is good and your attitude is strong and you want to work hard, then the rest will come. If you put the effort in and you do it in the right way and you want to work with people, then you will be successful.
Yeah. And whenever we think about the changes that are happening in NIE right now, so there's a lot of talk about decarbonisation and net zero. Does that touch on any of the work that you're doing?
Massively so.
Really?
The big difference that I would say in the last maybe, I suppose, 5 years has been that IT is no longer seen as a peripheral discipline. We had an IT department, and I think from a business perspective, it was kind of like, well, you do your IT stuff. That's great. It's brilliant. Nobody really understands it. Get on with it. Make it happen. But more and more now, decisions are being made. So for NIE Networks, one of the ways for us to lower our carbon is to lower the amount of building work we're doing, the actual building our network out. So we need to think about ways of deciding whether we need to build or whether we've got existing capacity that we could actually do something different to manage the capacity across our network. Now, we can't do that manually. That has to be done with IT systems to support it. So more and more in this last, as I say, maybe 5 years or so, IT systems and IT platforms are more and more being integrated into our traditional electricity networks so that our engineering workforce can make better informed data decisions that allow them to look at maybe increasing capacity safely rather than building out additional network infrastructure. So being able to do that means investment in new technology and new IT technology. And one of the things that's been fantastic over this last while is being involved with a business in developing that. Because it brings you more into the core, into the heart of the organization, which is a great place to be.
Yeah.
And look, for anyone who is listening to this, who's thinking about what is my son going to do? What is my daughter going to do? I mean, technology, and I know there's a bit of a scare around AI at the moment, but knowing how to manage AI, knowing how to speak to AI, the tools are changing slightly, but technology is going to be at the center of more and more over the next 3, 5, 7, 10 years. And for anyone looking for career opportunities, working in that technology and IT sector, cybersecurity, absolutely huge at this point in time. A really, really solid, secure career choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's that sense of using skills and the ability in technology to do things which are all about providing a service to individual homes or factories to energy, but of doing it in a way that minimizes the environmental impact on the
well, I think that's it. So it's reaching the same outcomes, but reaching them in a way that actually gives us a net zero benefit as well.
Yeah.
And we absolutely can do that. Obviously from an electricity point of view, safety is just so critical to everything that we do. So everything has to be done in a really safe manner. So when it comes to, if you don't have the data to make decisions, you have to err on the side of caution. You must, because it's not overstating it to say it's life or death.
Yeah.
But if you get the data and you get the accurate information and data about what's actually happening on your network, as electricity goes through a line will sag. It will sag lower when it's warm and less so when it's cold. Understanding the amount of capacity you can put through that line tells you about the clearances that you have. So real practical things that if you get more data and information about, you can actually make different decisions about how you treat your asset, when you replace your asset, put your money into the right place at the right time, not build. And if you're reducing that build, you're reducing the carbon offset and emission. So like really positive influences on the way we do our business.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious that, not a lot of folks will understand, not that I understand it either, but like the whole price control period and things like that. But ultimately it's the consumer that pays for these things. And if all of that system you've talked about doesn't work as efficiently as it could do, we all end up paying more in our electricity bills, or if you're own a business, in your bills.
And so look, the role of the utility regulator, and I mentioned when I started my career, it was part of government sector, and obviously then it was privatized. But we are very, very aware of the fact that it is a natural monopoly. There is one electricity network in Northern Ireland, and we are the company that are lucky enough to be trusted with doing the right things. And that is something that as an organization we do really take very seriously. But our relationship with the utility regulator is key to that. Putting our proposals forward. So when I did the price control about a year and a half ago now, for what we're in now, which is regulatory period 7, what the regulator is doing is they're scrutinizing our investment what do we want to invest in from the perspective of the agenda of net zero, customer value for money, doing the right things on behalf of the people of Northern Ireland. And there's a really strong sense in NIE Networks that whilst we're employees of NIE Networks, we are also, it's Northern Ireland electricity. We live in this community, and our staff really care about the community that we live in. So from that perspective, we're consumers of our product as well, and we want it to be the best it can be, because we are a part of the fabric of Northern Ireland.
Yeah, great. So I'm going to get you to think back to just say you were talking to your 16-year-old self. You've talked a bit about your background, but what would you say to your 16-year-old self?
I think when I was 16, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And I probably stressed out about that. I think what I would say to my 16-year-old self is not to worry. Just because everyone around you knows that they want to be a mechanic or a doctor or a lawyer doesn't mean you have to know what it is that you want to do. Look for opportunities where you're not closing out your options. So if you can find an organization like NIE, there's lots of others like that where actually if you go into that company, actually it could be there that you find what you have a passion for. It could be there that you find what you want to do for the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years of your career. And it's time enough at 16 to still think about that before you feel the pressure of having to narrow down your future opportunity. So don't be afraid to explore. Keep your work ethic strong. Stay honest.
Yeah.
And work hard.
Yeah. I think those latter ones are so important, aren't they? It's just the sense of none of us could have mapped out our career if we all had to design it as a 16-year-old. We wouldn't have ended up where we are now, but it's being open to those, the weaving.
And be open to the opportunities as they come along. I mean, I would say that I wasn't a great planner. In my career, I've ended up as the head of digital delivery in NIE Networks, which I think is a privilege. I never would have thought that that's where I would have been when I joined it as a clerical trainee. I left NIE for a period of about 11 years after I had been in the company for 15 years. So the one thing I will say is, take the opportunity to develop yourself within an organization, absolutely, but take the opportunity to develop yourself personally as well. Mm-hmm. Because what NIE did for me was it allowed me to go out into the workplace, into other private organizations and succeed.
Yeah.
And realize, well, actually, these skills that I've learned are transferable. And it allowed me then 10, 11 years later to come back into the organization, an organization which had changed, but to really pick up and reconnect with it and call upon that initial knowledge of the company that was there to then take the IT department forward and into where it is now.
Great. Well, as you alluded to, it's technology is really central to the delivery of so many organizations right now, especially NIE. Just final question, which we ask all of our guests because we believe work is a positive thing, and that's why we're called Workplus. But there's a sense of impact that you've talked about today. But if I was to ask you, what is so good about work? What's your response to that?
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I think it changes with age. Right now, what I think is great about work is I'm at a stage in my career where I manage quite a lot of people. My team maybe has about 60 or so staff that I work with. The thing that gives me the greatest satisfaction is developing them and watching them grow their confidence and take on the next challenge and take the next step in a career. If you'd have asked me that question maybe 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I was always very delivery focused. I loved to get a project and see the fruit of it, get it out the other end and see a successful outcome. And that drove me on to the next thing. I think as I've got a little bit more mature in my work experience, I still love that, but I actually love seeing it being driven by the team around me and seeing that sort of almost that next generation of
and them delivering in that sense. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Well, Mark, thanks so much for your time coming in today. I really appreciate it. Wish you all the best in your career. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Really enjoyed it.
Thanks for tuning in to Workplus. If today's story gave you fresh perspective or helped you rethink what's possible, leave us a review on your favourite podcast platform or hit like and subscribe. It really does make a big difference. For more stories, resources, and tools to help guide the next generation, visit workplus.app. Until next time.